We're talking with Jeff Pearlman, Sports New York Times bestselling author. The book Gunslinger comes out soon, October 25, and it's going to be one of those must-reads for sure. Good morning, Jeff. Roger Weiland, how are you?
Hey, how are you? How's it going?
I'm good, Jeff.
Absolute craziness going on in my house. So hear my dog bark.
That's all right. This is a family-oriented show. That's how it works here in the mornings between 10 and noon. You must be excited about the new book coming out, The Remarkable, Improbable Life, Iconic Life, Brett Favre. Give us a quick overview. Actually, the first one I want to ask you, in all of your research and interviews, what did you learn about Brett Favre as a person?
I learned a ton. To be honest. And now my son is out the door with his lunchbox, so all is good here.
I love it. I love it.
The exciting life of an author.
Yeah.
To me, the thing that really, fascinated me was his growing up in Mississippi. More than anything, more than the Packers, more than the Vikings. And, specifically, here's this guy. He played for his dad. His dad was his high school coach, and Irv Favre. And he was this old-school Southern high school coach who insisted they only run the ball. So you have Brett Favre with this nuclear arm and missed his sophomore year with mono, started his junior and senior year, averaged about 4 to 5 throws a game. Nobody recruited him. When I say nobody recruited. Not Division I, not Division II, not Division III, not NAI, nobody. So he basically one guy at Southern Miss, the recruiter for Southern Miss, starts on his job late. And everyone has a head start on him. He starts asking around Mississippi if anyone knows of any diamonds. And one coach is like, well, I don't know if he's any good, but there's this kid at Hancock North Central who I've seen throw, and the guy just has a nuclear arm. So I don't know. He might be worth looking at. And so he has no stats. He never throws the ball. This coach tells the head coach at Southern Miss, he basically says, look, I have this guy. I don't know if he's any good, but man, can he throw the football. And the head coach still doesn't want to give him a scholarship, but at the last minute, someone backs out. And they're like, all right, well, we can always make him a safety. And that's how Brett Favre even got to college. Otherwise, nobody is interested.
In an excerpt from the book, you detail the tension between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. How bad did that get?
Very bad. Very bad. It's very interesting. I had this conversation with a friend the other day because some people are like, God, Favre was such a jerk. And other people are like, wow, Rodgers was such a jerk. Because Rodgers arrived from Cal, and he was this very cocky, very self-assured 21-year-old. And Brett Favre at the time, I think, was 35. And he's very protective of his job, and it's the first time they've ever brought a guy in to take his job or to challenge for his job. So, you had this really awkward dynamic. And Favre went out of his way to make his life pretty miserable. There's one thing I wrote about that. It just kind of sums it up, which is, they used to, on Tuesdays, they would sign merchandise, and it would be given to charity. So there would be, the team would put helmets on the table to sign. Nobody's helmets, just team helmets to sign. And one day, Favre thought it would be funny to take Aaron Rodgers' helmet and put it on the table and not tell him. So everyone on the team is signing Aaron Rodgers' helmet, including Aaron Rodgers. And it's time to go to practice, and Rodgers is searching all over the place frantically for his helmet. He can't find it until he finally figures out that his helmet is the one with 45 signatures on it. So now he runs out to practice wearing the helmet with the autographs on it, just feeling absolutely humiliated. And everyone's laughing at him, and he goes back to his locker, and he's in near tears. And that was the kind of thing, Favre took a certain pleasure in kind of making his life miserable. It was hazing to a certain degree, and it really kind of put a wedge between the two of them for a long time.
Hey, Jeff, Zach By hanging out with Roger in studio. I have to ask you, after you've spoken to all these people about Brett and you have so much context, how does Brett Favre view himself?
I think he sees himself. It's such a great question. I think he sees himself as a guy who went through a lot to get to a certain place. I don't know if that makes sense, but people have read part of the book and they'll say, God, he's such a jerk. And I'm like, no, he's not really a jerk. He was a jerk at 27, maybe, and the different things he went through, from Mississippi to Green Bay to Aaron Rodgers to the pictures of, his privates in New York to a lot of marital problems to Vicodin addiction to alcohol. All those moments sort of make you who you are. And here he is at 47, and he's really a volleyball dad. His daughter, Breeley, is a great high school volleyball player. And he travels around watching her play volleyball. He travels around with his wife who does triathlons. He's kind of become this sort of guy who's very at peace with himself. So I think all those things, all those problems, all those issues, all those highs, all those lows, kind of make him the guy he is today, which is a very content human being.
Yeah, I was going to say, right, and we're talking with Jeff Pearlman. Great to have him aboard on Big Board Sports. New York Times best-selling author. The book Gunslinger comes out soon, October 25, and it's going to be one of those must-reads for sure. So, like right now in Green Bay, Brett Favre is beloved, right? Everyone loves Brett Favre.
I would say 93%.
Okay.
Love Brett Favre. There's definitely a lingering thing for some people that I don't know if will ever be let go about what happened with Minnesota and going to Minnesota. And people felt rightly that was kind of a stick in the eye of the Packers, and specifically a stick in the eye of Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson. So there's definitely some hostility still.
What do you think Brett Favre will think about when he reads the book?
Number one, I doubt he'll read it. I don't say that insultingly. He's not really the kind. I've written books where people read it, they absorb it. And then I've written books where guys, like Barry Bonds, I don't think ever wrote the biography I wrote on him. I think Favre won't. I think his wife will. I think some of his friends will. I think they'll cringe at certain parts. I mean, his dad is a pretty major character in the book, and his dad was a really flawed human being in a lot of ways, as are we all. So I think he'll probably have a mixed opinion on it. Hopefully, overall, they'll think it was fair. That's the most important part.
Jeff, what was one thing you learned during your research and adding all this context and perspective that you just shook your head wait, what? What did I just learn?
Oh, man, there were so many things. I mean, I was really fascinated. I didn't know. This has never been reported anywhere, but I wrote a lot about the bounty game where the Saints beat the snot out of Favre, obviously. And, it's kind of interesting. If you look back at the articles, I found this really weird. Very few Vikings were complaining about the treatment that the Saints gave Favre. It was a big uproar, and the NFL certainly made it a thing, an issue. And, everyone in sports media was crying about it. But the Vikings weren't. And I talked to guys on the team, and one guy in particular who's telling me that the Vikings that season and the season before had their own bounty system, which was more, it wasn't to the extent of the Saints, but they were paying to take guys out. They were paying for hard hits. And I interviewed a guy named Thomas Jones, a really good running back from the New York Jets. And I asked him why more NFL players didn't seem to be so upset by the bounty system. And he's like, because we know this happens. We've all been either a part of it or we talk about it, or it's just such a common thing in the NFL that we would all be hypocrites if all of a sudden we came out and we were like, oh, this is so terrible. How dare the Saints? So I thought it was really interesting that for all the uproar that we, myself included, in the media directed at Greg Williams and Sean Payton and the Saints, it was a pretty common thing that happened in the NFL.
Jeff, what do you, if someone goes out, and obviously a lot of people will, buy the book, what do you want them to take away from this? What was your objective here?
I hope, number one, I hope they're entertained, and I hope they enjoy themselves, and I hope they're educated. And I just think, I really do. I think Favre is really a great guy. I really do. I think he's so flawed. I think his flaws were very public. Most of us don't have to go through that. I think he made some horrible mistakes. But I think ultimately when you read about him, you're going to realize that this is a really interesting, unique, sort of actually deep human being with a really riveting life. So I
wonder what Brett Favre would say right now if we got him on the air to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
Oh my God, he probably wouldn't. He'd probably give the politically correct answer.
Would he?
Right?
Yeah,
he'd probably be smart.
We're
blah blah blah. We're good friends now. But Rodgers has never been able to stomach Favre. Never.
Wow. Is Favre front and center in Green Bay, Jeff, with the media talk? Does he do any of that, or does he just lay low, go watch his daughter play volleyball, and do dad stuff?
He pops up every now and then, but he, to his credit, he's maintained a pretty low profile. He never wanted to be a guy who was in front of the media. I mean, never in his post career. He never wanted to be a coach. He coached high school locally for a couple years in Mississippi. He was the offensive coordinator of the nearby high school, which was pretty cool. But he's not a guy who needs to see himself in the headlines anymore at all. And I actually really like guys like that. I kind of prefer that to guys hanging on and desperately trying to stay relevant. He doesn't care. I don't think he cares about his relevancy at all. I don't even think he cared that much about the Hall of Fame. I think he was happy and he was honored, I don't think it was the hugest thing for him.
Would you say that Favre right now, would you consider him just a regular guy? Is he a regular guy right now?
Yeah, I would. I 100% would. I do. I'm not saying, I'm not saying having that level of fame doesn't affect you. I mean, it certainly does. But I think as far as a guy who played that long in the NFL, who's considered that legendary, who's in the conversation of top 5 all-time quarterbacks, yeah, I think he's as normal as you could probably be.
That's how I look. I was watching, over the weekend. He was honored, and I'm just looking at him, and he just, to me, right now, look kind of be a little humbled and just enjoying life a little bit, and not a guy with a huge ego at the moment.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that 100%. He's just, the reason, it's kind of funny. I just talked about this with someone recently. Favre is not one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time. Very few people who really know football would say, oh, he's the best. There's no way he's the best quarterback of all time. I think I could give you 10 guys who are better NFL quarterbacks than Brett Favre. But there was the 2 things, like, number one, he was just ridiculously entertaining. I don't think we've ever had a more, maybe Steve Young, maybe Michael Vick in his prime, but who's been more entertaining as a quarterback as far as rolling right, throwing left, wrong foot, boneheaded interceptions, comes back, makes up for it. Dirt is covering his uniform. He and Sterling Sharp are sniping at each other. It's just like he was pure entertainment. And also, like, he wore his flaws. Like he really did. He wore his flaws. He was a very human. I think of, like, Peyton Manning after the Super Bowl last year with his slipping in Budweiser into his comments. I'm just going to go and have a Budweiser, and it was so corporate and it felt so manufactured and so fake. And Favre was never like that. He was just really raw, really gritty, really flawed, and really human. And people love that stuff with good reason.
It's going to be a great read, October 25th. Will this be your best one? You've had a lot of best. Will this be the best of Jeff Pearlman?
I hope so. I don't know. It's all pleasure pain. Like, I love doing them, but the pains and I hope so. I don't know. It's one of my best.
All right. So let me ask you this question, and to end, do you already have something in your mind that will be the next one?
Yeah, I've already started working. I'm doing it's my passion project. It's going to sell about 7 copies. But I'm doing a book about do you remember the old USFL, the United States Football League?
Sure.
So I grew up loving the USFL, absolutely loving the USFL. So I've always dreamed of writing a USFL book. So that's coming next.
Well, there you go. I think anything you write turns into gold. So we're looking forward to this one. All set, right? October 25th, and be able to get this just about anywhere?
Yeah, and it's available now on Amazon and online and everywhere. This bookstore is 25th.
Gotcha. Jeff, I appreciate a few minutes. So you're going to have a busy tour of promoting this coming up down the road. We appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports in Albany.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Pearlman, good stuff there. New York Times bestselling author.